So grand rising, standing, and buenos dias, beloveds. I am in a mood today, like really, just kind of tranquil, just that smooth zone. So bear with me. This will be 15 minutes of strengthening your arms as well as your wrists, your forearms, your shoulders, getting that core work in, tightening those glutes as well as your quads, but loosening your hamstrings so we can master our handstand with all of our different drills, whether it be the L shape, whether it's extending our legs fully out from a warrior stand. We're going to go through a lot of different drills that just help our overall process of mastering our handstands. So if you are willing to take 15 minutes to vibe with me, as well as learn a few tips, then sit back, relax, and watch.
A rising storm sounded like only an echo. In a few moments, he had been hypnotized. In a few moments, he had been hypnotized. A rising storm sounded like only an echo. In a few moments, he had been hypnotized. In a few moments, he had been hypnotized. A rising storm sounded like only an echo. In a few moments, he had been hypnotized. In a few moments, he had been hypnotized. A rising storm sounded like only an echo. In a few moments, he had been hypnotized.
All right, beloveds, so I'm just checking back in with you. Right now, you should be in such a mellow mood, as well as learning a few things, seeing the difficulty, as well as the discipline that is needed when securing a handstand, a forearm stand. The placement of your shoulders and your hips over top of your shoulders, and the discipline, because the straighter you get those legs, the more that breath has to come into line. So you see what I'm working on in this time.
A rising storm sounded like only echo. In a few moments, he had finished hypnotized. In a few moments, he had finished hypnotized. A rising storm sounded like only echo. In a few moments, he had finished hypnotized.
I want to stay in the jungle.
In a few moments, he had finished hypnotized. A rising storm sounded like only echo.
All right, so throughout the course of this video, you'll see up in the top left-hand corner me just going through certain drills. One of the main things too, you want to definitely measure the distance of you and the wall. So that's what you saw me do. As it helps the L shape to fully extend that body, get those shoulders and hips aligned. Of course, the hips over top of the shoulders when you're pushing through the ground, as well as taking those deep breaths. I am extending, and you'll see me go into a slightly bent extension, so I can just push through a bit deeper, and I'm on the tips of my heels. Now you can go further. However, I cannot overextend my nervous system in my foot, but I keep going.
I want to stay in the jungle.
In a few moments, he had finished hypnotized. A rising storm sounded like only echo. In a few moments, he had finished hypnotized.
All right, so as we are 10 minutes in, I'm sure by now the tempo within your casing has even calmed and smoothed itself, where you can tap into your breath. So, trust and believe. I'm going to get this big body up in the air. Now, the depth of this is getting that body to stay there. So those hips are over the shoulders and I'm breathing in. This is what your girl is focusing on right now. To extend that hold and do it in many different positions. And the more you practice different or variations of the handstand, you'll get to feel the body weight of where it is. This happens to be one of my favorite, and I'm continuously pushing myself here. But you get to feel the weight extended in the front of you, in the back of you, above you, and of course we all know below. But this is really something that takes discipline and dedication.
In a few moments, he had finished hypnotized. A rising storm sounded like only an echo. In a few moments, he had finished hypnotized.
I must briefly mention this stretch here. This stretch is a deep hamstring stretch, and I'm on my toes to alleviate some tension from my foot. However, it is of great importance that you stretch this out, because eventually you want to be able to just step right into your handstand.
In a few moments, he had finished hypnotized.
I want to stay in the jungle.
In a few moments, he had finished hypnotized. A rising storm sounded like only an echo.
So as you saw me do this very similar move earlier, we're going to slightly change it up. We are going to tuck that body in, of course, the butt towards the wall, the head is fully extended outwardly. This time, the head comes up towards the wall, and now we're just going to extend from our toe, our big toe. It's a completely different stretch, beloveds. Trust and believe. It looks similar, but oh my God. I'm so pleased that you decided to stay with me. Stretch it out. And let's go get some lunch.